I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your
The sprawling hills of eastern Massachusetts are the backdrop of our third race of the season at our fastest facility on the slate. Hi, hello, and good afternoon, race fans. It is a gorgeous Friday spring day outside of Waltham, Massachusetts, as we welcome you to the Papyrus Motorsports Park for stop number 3 of the 2026 NR2003 FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship, the Dunkin New England Grand Prix. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone tuning into today's coverage of FMGTC Racing here on the North American Sim Racing Network, live on the NESRN. My name is Trey Wright, and our third stop of the season brings us to the original Roval in NR2003, the high-speed 7 banked corners of Papyrus. Nearly 4 miles being ran in just over 70 seconds. It absolutely deserves the moniker of being the fastest track on the 2026 FMGTC schedule. Qualifying over the past 3 days has proven to be an extension of already bustling storylines here in the FMGTC, as for the second consecutive race, the points leader for GT Le Mans has had to watch the race from their motorhome, that being the number 20 Napa Corvette of Matheus Bento, who will strap back into their car for a single-day showing at Greenville-Spartanburg tomorrow. More on the MBCS's day later in the event. But several other surprises in GTLM qualifying yesterday were Eric Monaco and Zachary Fitzwater both missing their second consecutive races. For Monaco, that's the second consecutive race he is missing for the Daytona 2.4 champion. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, Pedro Sabato and Luna Farmer will be making their GTLM debuts here this afternoon. And over in GT Daytona, 4 drivers, top 10 in points, failed to qualify for today's race, those being last year's Papyrus GT Daytona winner Daniel Bouchard, the 98 of Aaron Awell, the 93 of Connor Monaco, and the 99 of Nathan Buchanan. Speaking of which, peeking at the point standings for the first time this season, Riley Sampson has a golden opportunity starting from the pole to take the points lead away from Matheus Bento, especially with current championship rivals Nathan Stapleton, Chris Harvey, and John Andrews all starting deep in that GTLM grid. Sampson, who has had a tumultuous history with the Papyrus Motorsports Park, trying to get things done in that Orbit number 36 Corvette from that pole position. Then over to GT Daytona, it's Alexander Rowe in the 88 who holds on to the lead by 5 points over a DNQ'd Nathan Buchanan and 10 points over the 25 of Dylan Ebrahimian. Ebrahimian starting 7th compared to Rowe, who starts in 11th. Those two are going to be battling for that points lead all afternoon long. The 72 of Carson Miller starts deep in the field, and Connor Monaco, like we said, one of those 4 drivers in GT Daytona that failed to qualify that are top 10 in the point standings. Well, despite the speeds these cars carry around the Papyrus Motorsports Park, we don't see a whole lot of chaos typically, as we see at other Rovals such as Denver and the Daytona International Speedway. As case in point, last year's race had only one on-track incident between Bryce Egan and Bradley Ream, and everybody was able to finish the race that did not have mechanical failures. We expect a little more of the same this season, and like we saw in qualifying yesterday, the draft is going to be the biggest component on who is going to get the job done. We saw drafting make or break people's qualifying sessions yesterday, and we're definitely going to see that contribute a lot into who ends up having a successful race here at Papyrus, or who ends up going back to the drawing board, going to Old Spice in a couple weeks. But right off of the start is where we've seen the most chaos in the past. That double file start going through the fearsome right-handed corners, the only right-handed corners on this track. Turns 3 and 4 at that very steeply banked elevation is very treacherous right off of the start. But after the opening 4 or 5 laps or so, if you're able to survive to get to lap 73, have a good strategy run, and as long as you're in a good spot on track and have a pretty good drafting group as well, you should be in a good position to get the job done, score some valuable points, as we're already about a quarter of the way through the championship after today, potentially win this third race of the season. But Papyrus has always been a blast to come to, especially with these Grand Touring cars, and you could not ask for better weather on this first day of spring in late March. 76 degrees, barely a cloud in the sky. It is not just ideal race conditions, it is perfect race conditions, as it's time to bring the action, and it's time to bring the noise. We send things down trackside for the most famous words in motorsports to light them up for race 3 of the season for the Dunkin New England Grand Prix from the Papyrus Motorsports Park. As we are ready to roar to life here at Papyrus Motorsports Park, the engines have been fired. 42 Grand Touring cars ready to do battle here for race number 3 of the season. Like we said, Riley Sampson starts from the pole position in that Orbit number 36 Corvette. He and Bryce Egan making up the front row for GT Le Mans. Egan, like we said, was involved in that only on-track incident of the season last year, the race I should say last year. In that 16 machine, they are in row number 1 for GT Le Mans. And back in here, GT Daytona. So Matt Oskin getting that pole position for GTD with Kyler Anderson to his outside. Anderson with a little bit of a slow start in the inside lane for some of the stragglers in GT Daytona. But there is that 42 machine. Once again, a good qualifying result for that Viper Factory 42 for Bradley Reams, development driver. See if he's able to get a race finish here after 73 laps at the Papyrus Motorsports Park. And well, to say, like we said at the top of the show, this track is about as roval as it gets. As you can see, all the banked corners, especially this fearsome right-hander, turns 3 and 4, banked at 24 degrees. There's nothing quite like it here in the FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship, aside from maybe the banked corners at Daytona, but they are not carrying as much speed at Daytona as they are going through this fearsome right-hander. That's where we're going to see a lot of problems, especially in this bottleneck. You go back to 2024 when Riley Sampson and Owen Miles got together. Owen Miles went upside down in that 59 car. Going to be 73 laps around this almost 4-mile road course, a 3.77-mile roval. So going to expect these guys to come down about 2 times. One of them with about maybe 10-15 laps to go. So very, very short fuel window for a lot of these guys towards the tail end of this race. Nathan Ormond and Owen Miles, the 2 previous winners in GT Le Mans. Miles starting in 11th in GTLM in the Exxon number 59. Dylan Matthews and Daniel Bouchard, the 2 previous winners for GT Daytona. There is Matthews deep in the field, starting in 15th for GTD. Field will make its way around turn number 7, the fastest corner on the course. We get ready to do battle. On a bright spring day, like we said, first day of spring, the Chevrolet Corvette pace car is down the pit lane. Riley Sampson, Bryce Egan will lead the field towards the Reese's restart zone. They will take the green flag in the air. We're live for race number 3 from the Papyrus Motorsports Park. Here we go. About as perfect as a jump you can get on that inside lane, and going through the right-hander for the opening time today. Everybody single file. We got 3 wide midway through this GTLM pack. It's Michael Lewis splitting the gap between Anthony Joseph and Pedro Sabato into the outside wall. He's able to keep things straight as they go back towards turns 5 and 6. Nearly 4 wide. We're 3 by 3 wide here in the GT Daytona field as they all fan out with one another. Nearly up into the outside wall, still by 3 wide is an Oklahoma land rush for these GT Daytona cars. It's Kyler Anderson going to the race lead in GT Daytona. Luna Farmer falling back on the outside in that 0-4. But off of turn number 7, 3 cars breaking away from the rest of the pack. It's Riley Sampson, Sarah Taylor, and Roberto Crown Jr. 3 cars under a blanket for GT Le Mans in that race lead, and we've got some more shuffling and bustling back in here with GT Daytona. Titan Nicholas in his FMGTC debut. Struggling a little bit in the early stages of this race. Again, he, as well as Harrison Fox in that 027, making their FMGTC debuts. So those 2 drivers trying to get some mojo working it up the racetrack, and Esteban Lasayer gets into Damian Karanko, and what a save out of Chikira Takashi. So those guys were wrecking loose through the apex of turns 3 and 4, and somehow they were able to keep it off of one another. They were able to keep it straight. Like we said, what a start we've got here in GT Daytona. They figure things out a little bit in GTD. And now, it's a 2-horse race for the race lead in GT Le Mans. We'll let the field fly by here. And now Roberto Crown Jr. with a run to the inside of Riley Sampson. Sarah Taylor waiting in the wings a little bit in that 45. Crown Jr. will move to the inside of Sampson for the race lead. Again, we're going to see that inside lane be the dominant line like we always do, and we got a couple of stragglers in the back. That's Robert Mikhailovich and Juan Carlos Espinoza. They have dropped back off the tail end of the GT Daytona grid. So those 2 have gotten into a little bit of a tussle up. We'll see if there's any tire tracks. For the time being, they will remain in the race, and everybody has gotten through. The first 2 laps relatively okay. Chikira Takashi right now in that 46 in the middle part of the GT, actually towards the front of the field, as there are the tire marks for Juan Carlos Espinoza and the 56 of Robert Mikhailovich, so we did have an incident off of turn number 6. Luna Farmer, like we said, struggling a little bit on the early stages. Their first ever race, but there's still plenty of time to go. We got 73 laps in this event. It'll be 70 to go at the line. Plenty of learning experiences for that driver, that 04. It's Philip Torres, Taylor Lay, and Pedro Sabato also falling a little bit back here off the opening start. Same thing with Nathan Stapleton. John Andrews has picked up a couple of spots in that 3 machine. Reggie Fogelman fell back. Same thing with Bryce Egan. That outside lane didn't get going whatsoever, as Egan currently slotting in that 8th position, and everybody on the inside to start off with, at least for GT Le Mans, has gotten things going. Is now a battle for the race lead in GT LM once again. And how about Kyle Wood in this 49 car? 3rd ever start, make that his 2nd ever start. There's 5 cars underneath of a blanket for the race lead in GT LM as Mike Vincent Jr. right now bringing up the rear of this quintet. For the race lead, Sarah Taylor moving underneath the 33 of Crown Jr. Those 2 door to door for a brief moment. Now Crown Jr. is going to fall back a little bit. How about this for 3 wide for 2nd place? Here comes Kyle Wood, younger brother of Joseph Wood. He's looking to get the 2-for-1 first day of spring special. Not quite the Saturday special, but irregardlessly, he's going to pick up 2 spots in 1 corner. We see a lot of this dogfight-esque racing in the very early stages of a run. One of these guys are on sticker tires. Mike Vincent Jr., last year's champion, trying to get around Roberto Crown Jr. Those 2 still side by side through turns 3 and 4. And now Taylor drawing a little bit of a gap over the 49 of Kyle Wood, checking back the tail end of the field as Dylan Matthews Not the best start for her in the 26. She's right on the tail end of this GT Daytona pack that has all gone single file. So Matt Oskin didn't get the greatest of starts in the 51. He's currently down in that 7th spot in GT Daytona, but it's still Kyler Anderson who leads. And it's the 2 factory Vipers of Anderson and the 71 of Logan Alexander, who are right now nose to tail. In fact, the Vipers right now winning 1, 2, and 3. Actually, Chikara Takashi is in the middle of that 1, 2, 3 battle. She currently holds that third spot, with Esteban Lacer, last year's champion, right behind her. There's going to be a pretty good battle brewing up in here as Alexander drawing a little bit of a slipstream right behind that 42. Which, again, Kyler Anderson making both races so far this season, making all 3 races, but the 2 previous races, he failed to finish. Last week, he started from the outside pole. Unfortunately, couldn't get the job done. Or last month, I should say, he started from the outside pole at Willow Springs and wrecked out after only 1 lap. Not even a lap completed by that 42 car. Is to the inside of that 42, going the 71. Alexander with a little bit of a run, not enough to quite take the race lead away. We'll check back on these guys in a little bit. Kyle Wood, he'll lead his first career lap in the FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship as he was able to get around Sarah Taylor, and it's a 5-car dogfight for this race lead right now. And Owen Miles currently rounding out the top 6 as he and Bradley Ream nose to tail. Again, those 2 will be one of the 20 drivers that put down qualifying laps yesterday that will be slotting over from the FMGTC down to Greenville, South Carolina, the Greenville Spartanburg Speedway for tomorrow afternoon's single day showing. The Slap on Location 500 qualifying will be bright and early at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And then after that, 500 miles, 50 laps will partake at 2 o'clock Eastern Time for race number 7 of the season, if I'm not mistaken, for the Mission Barbecue Cup Series. Race number 6. Getting a little bit ahead of myself. That race number 7, that's going to be the SRI Performance 400 for the Rockingham Speedway. In just a couple weeks here. Next week at Rockingham. It's going to be a fun race, and this has been a fun battle for GTLM so far. 4 different leaders for GTLM. Mike Vincent Jr. trying to become the 5th leader, but he's still in that 4th spot, and Crown Jr. has dropped back a little bit in the battle of the juniors for those 4th and 5th spots. Sarah Taylor trying to go for the crossover underneath that 49, but Kyle Wood has got the inside through 3 and 4. That is the predominantly fastest line, but look at the speed that Sarah Taylor is carrying out of 3 and 4. And she's going to take this race lead right back for GTLM. Now Riley Sampson trying to take away 2nd from Kyle Wood, as it is a Corvette parade for 2nd through 4th. You got a Jaguar leading the way and a Toyota currently bringing up as the caboose. As Roberto Crown Jr., one of 2 Toyotas in this grid, the other one being James Lawson, who right now just outside of the top 10 as Nathan Stapleton has been able to break back inside of the top 10. Bryce Egan and Reggie Fogelman have not had great starts, as those 2 are nose to tail. Reggie just a little bit in front of that 16 of Bryce Egan. And now Riley Sampson can get this race lead right back here. Wood has not been good on the inside of 3 and 4 at all through this race. That might come back to haunt him a little bit later on, but again, this is the first time that Kyle Wood has been at this track before. All these other guys up in this top 5, as they are going to get in the outside wall a little bit. They just get so close to that wall off of the corner sometimes that oftentimes they will just marginally hit it once or twice. But we are seeing pack racing at its finest here. And it is, it's certainly been something so far. You got all 5 cars all in line with one another. That kind of looked like the Venturini Nitro cars, as just we say that 49, the 78 fan out, 3 wide for the race lead in GT Le Mans. It doesn't get better than this. We might have 4 wide as here comes Vincent Jr. barnstorming his way up through the inside through 1. Sarah Taylor nearly making that 4 wide. And this has just been absolutely crazy, crazy racing and trouble for Samat Ozkin in the 51. He has fallen very, very deep in the field. As Robert Mikhailovich has gone a lap down in the 56, he had to come down the pit lane along with Samat Ozkin. Those two involved in an incident. But now Mike Vincent Jr., we said that he was gunning to lead a lap here to make it 5 different leaders for GTLM. And he has certainly done that in spades so far. Up to the race lead. I don't think Wood is going to get back there in time to take that race lead away from the 78, as Sarah Taylor will slot back into 3rd. And this has just been nothing short of fantastic racing so far here for the Dunkin New England Grand Prix. 10 laps into the race. 5 different leaders. And none of them have been able to hold on for maybe more than a lap or 2. And they are rapidly catching up to 51 of Samat Ozkin. We go back here briefly to GT Daytona. New race leader, Logan Alexander, who failed to qualify last month at Willow Springs, up to the race lead. Philip Torres, Pedro Sabato, Taylor Lay, Kasumi Takashi, Emily York Watson, and some other drivers trying to make their way up through. And again, the double file start, not everybody was able to get as big of a start, especially everybody that started on the outside lane. As there is Robert Mikhailovich, who has been surpassed. He is right now being filtered through the GTLM leaders. And it's been a tough couple of weeks for Robert Mikhailovich. He had a solid run at Willow Springs. Was able, if we can double check where he finished at Willow Springs. A solid 8th place run at Willow Springs after DNQing for the Daytona 2.4. Right now currently running in last, the only car a lap down in GT Daytona, 21st. All the way at the bottom of the barrel for GTD, so a tough start for him, but still a long way to go. A long way to get there, but coming back from a lap down, especially with no cautions, is very, very tough. So he's going to rely on some other drivers having some issues to get back in contention. But we've, again, he was involved in our only incident so far of the afternoon. I believe we had some sort of other accident with Samat Ozkin, so that would double what happened last year. Again, like we said at the very top of the show, we don't see a whole lot of hijinks here, and that's because it's a Roval. It's all about speed. It's all about, downforce and everything. It's really just turns 3 and 4, and occasionally, like we've seen a couple of times today, the exit of turns 5 and 6 that are really the trouble areas. This track is all about racing. It's all about drafting. And you don't get a whole lot of technical places where, we're going to see a whole lot of trouble spots. As Kyle Wood goes back to the race lead. At Daytona, you look at, right from the start, you've got the turn 1 turnaround up through the S's. It's a very narrow area, and this track is not narrow whatsoever. You can easily fit 4 wide. 3 wide is the norm. 4 wide, it's okay, we're pushing it a little bit, but you can still relatively do it. In Daytona, it's very narrow, especially through those S's, and it's always very weirdly shaped at Daytona. And some of the LP files are a little bit weird. Daytona's weird. Willow Springs can be very weird, and you go to some of the other tracks on this upcoming schedule. Old Spice. Turn 3 has been historically a little bit weird. Mexico City. That's going to be another spot where just the opening set of corners, that's where we're going to see all of our chaos take place. Canadian Tire, we've seen trouble spots there. Watkins Glen is Watkins Glen. It's the hottest ticket on the season for a reason. You go to Thornton, it's trouble spots. Bridgehampton is a lot like Papyrus, where there's only one specific area where we see things go awry, and it's the opening corner. It's the Hansgen turn, where all hell typically breaks loose. In Bridgehampton, Autumn Hill is just the S's exist. Turn 1 exists, and Riverside is very chaotic there as well. The only track we didn't really mention was Clawhammer, because we have no idea what to expect from Clawhammer. It's our first race with actual cars. We took the Loves American Truck Series out to Clawhammer, and there wasn't really that many incidences. There was plenty of really good racing, enough to convince us, hey, we're going to come here with the Grand Touring cars, and we're just going to see what these guys can do and how fun of a race it's going to be. Clawhammer, as we had one car, in turn number 1, he had an incident. I believe that may have been Juan Carlos Espinoza as well. No, it was Joseph Wood going around in turn number 1, hard in the outside wall, and getting back to the race here as Cement Oskin, the pole sitter for GT Daytona, about to be put a lap down by Kyle Wood. So the Wood brothers on opposite ends of the spectrum, with Joseph Wood having a moment in turn number 1. And just as we're talking about, Papyrus is not really a place where we see a whole lot of different incidences outside of the right-hander. I don't think we have ever had an incident in turn number 1 in any stretch of the races. Whether it be Mission Barbecue Cup Series, whether it be FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship, whether it be WAS, whether it be the Loves American Truck Series, which we'll be coming to Papyrus here in the fall for the Loves American Truck Series. That is a given. And what's a given right now is Sarah Taylor, not very happy with Samad Oskin. She's right on the rear end of the 51, and he is going to hold her up. She was running in that 3rd spot, and she's going to fall all the way back to 5th, right in the clutches of Bradley Ream and Owen Miles, who have been closing their way in to this 5-car breakaway. Just we say that, Oskin is getting right in front of Bradley Ream and that Boston Red Sox Corvette. Going to have to go the long way around. That Castrol GTX machine is going to swing up the outside, going up through 4. And both Ream and Miles, who have been digging back into this battle, they've been closing in a couple tenths of a second. But now they might fall a little bit back here as we're about halfway home through this fuel and tire run. And we have had 3 different incidences, all of them in GT Daytona. We go back to GTD, Luna Farmer. Yes, she is struggling immensely in that 04 car. Continuing to fall back in that 04 machine. Skylar Anderson has gotten the race lead back. Actually, Chikira Takashi, I believe, should be the race leader, and she is. So how about that for Chikira Takashi? She's on the inside of 3 wide. Philip Torres caught in the middle of a 3-wide battle there with Kasumi Takashi. So the Takashi sisters putting Philip Torres in a little bit of a sandwich right there and right now. She's been able to navigate around the 2 leaders as Joseph Wood will go a lap down officially in GT Daytona. Juan Carlos Espinoza and Samad Oskin. Juan Carlos Espinoza, he is off of the pace, but Oskin, like we said, he is a lap down in terms of GTLM, not quite a lap down. In terms of GT Daytona, a little bit of sparks there. And a brief moment for Owen Miles, last year's winner. Oskin holding up Ream and Miles just a little bit to where they're now back to 1.5 seconds away from Sarah Taylor and Kyle Wood and everybody in between. Now the dogfighting has quelled a little bit, just as we say that Mike Vincent Jr. darting out of line. We'll go back to what we were talking about with Clawhammer. Again, the only trouble spot I can see is just that downhill section that goes into a hard right-hander where, again, if you've watched Tow Car, you'll definitely know that that section is very infamous. We didn't see... We saw a couple of trucks getting airtime in the Loves American Truck Series, but not enough to really warrant any sort of okay. With a race with these GTLM cars could be an absolute poop show, but then again, you never know. PTA physics differ so heavily from CTS physics. We've ran a couple of test races to see how stupid the races at Clawhammer would be. I really don't know what other phrase to really use. And they weren't chaotic. They had their moments. It was a little bit like Willow Springs, but not nearly as bad. And Willow Springs has been on the schedule from day one, and it will continue to be because that track is phenomenal. We just got to dial it. The drivers themselves got to just dial it back a little bit. But, Clawhammer, the race is a lot like Willow Springs. I think we're good. We're in store for a pretty good race later on in early August, and we've had a pretty good race here so far as everybody has been swapping spots for these GTLM cars. Again, Papyrus, it is a fantastic track here in NR2003, and safe to say that I don't think this track is going absolutely anywhere. It's been a fan favorite. In Daytona, the two Roval tracks on the schedule with Denver taking a back seat. And it still remained a relatively close race up in here. Again, you got the top 7 all within just over 2 seconds of one another. We do not typically see that here at other racetracks. As Esteban Lasser down the pit lane in the 66. There might be a little bit of damage. No, I don't see anything there, but I did see we had one driver with a mechanical failure. I believe it was Titan Nicholas. I do not see Nicholas on track. Trying to see where Nicholas is. He was running. There he is on the pit lane. An engine failure for the 41. And his FMGTC debut will unfortunately come to a close 19 laps into the race, and that is a heartbreaker. He was running in the 15th position at the time. Make that the 13th position for Nicholas, who started this race in that 5th spot. And the bad luck continuing. Didn't really extend into qualifying like it had the last 2 months, but extends into the race. And he will likely finish this race in last for GT Daytona. That is such a tough break for that Stunad Racing number 41 car. And again, Esteban Lasser, we didn't see anything really wrong with him. It looked like just a simple pit stop there for Lasser. Taking all tires, didn't take any fuel. And again, we've got 27 laps on a run, and these guys, we're on lap number 21 right now. Here comes Michael Lewis down the pit lane. Oh boy, you know what? We might see these guys come down a little bit earlier than anticipated, because Lewis is going to come down the pit lane. The only thing that's surprising about me for Lasser is he did not take fuel, but he only took tires. We typically see drivers, at least take some semblance of fuel on a pit stop. I really don't know how that's going to work out. But Lasser currently a lap down. He is on fresher rubber. And again, we're seeing just how far in advance these GTLM drivers, these GTLM leaders, are ahead of one another. Lewis will come out of the pit lane. He will be a lap down. And again, we're still seeing these guys race each other very, very well. The only difference is that They aren't racing for the race lead anymore. Kyle Wood, he's definitely got that 49 car locked down. Second career race. Took over for that 49 car from Aguirre Sato after Sato put that car in championship contention in back-to-back seasons. And Wood, you know, he failed to qualify for the Daytona 2.4. Had a pretty decent run at Willow Springs, where I believe he finished in the he finished 12th. I think he ran into some issues, so a pretty formidable run, all things considered. But he has been the Pied Piper of the Papyrus Motorsports Park so far. But again, we've got about 5 laps until this pit window is officially going to open. Nobody coming down the pit lane just yet for GTLM. Oh boy, Landon Walker and Will Parrish get to know each other a little bit well. Going through turns 3 and 4. Parrish a little bit up the racetrack. He was able to fortunately catch that 20 machine. Those two Mustangs will remain ramrod straight. Going Ibrahimian moving to the inside of Pedro Sabato. Ibrahimian, he might be coming down the pit lane here. He's going to remain on track by the looks of it. And he will, as Ibrahimian, Alexander Rowe have gotten around here. And I believe, no, Logan Alexander's still the race leader. Chikira Takashi. Nope, Chikira Takashi, she's all the way up to 15th. I don't know what they have put in this Bud Light Mustang. Well, I was looking down. Okay, Logan Alexander, he's in front of Kasumi Takashi and Luna Farmer. But Chikira Takashi, based on just speed alone, I don't know what they have put into that 46 car, but she is running on rails. She is outrunning her sister Kasumi, who is in a faster GTLM car. You know, Chikira missed the race last month at Willow Springs. She's come back with a pretty hard vengeance in that 46. You know, she's not just running 14th for GT Le Mans, for GT Daytona. She's running 14th on track. As Philip Torres is going to duck down on the inside. We might see some drivers ducking onto the pit lane here. Torres, he's not quite on the white line yet. He's just going to stay out again. Usually we can tell when these drivers swing all the way down to the inside of turn number 7. It's a pretty good indicator of whether or not these guys are going to come down the pit lane or not. But again, window will officially open up in 3 laps. And nobody else besides Michael Lewis, Matt Oskin, and Esteban Lasser. Or really just Esteban Lasser and Michael Lewis have come down the pit lane. Now make it a 6-car battle, a 7-car battle for the race lead in GT Le Mans. Owen Miles still straggling a little bit on the back end, but he's within a second and a half of Kyle Wood. And again, with these guys just continuing to battle, continuing to draft off of one another, that's where we are seeing the biggest spots here. It's Riley Sampson in that 36 car. Right on the back end of all of these drivers. Oh, he's going swinging way up to the outside. Thought Sarah Taylor was going to catch him in the rear quarter panel for a brief moment, but Riley is going to remain steadfast for the time being. 3 wide back in here. Eric Blaze in the middle of 3 wide. Joseph Wood on the outside. Rogel Dorn on the inside. And how about Harrison Fox in that number 27 machine? Moving on up. Currently running in that 11th spot in GT Daytona. Marcus Glitch, Carson Miller also with some pretty good runs as well. Glitch definitely needs it. Same thing with Will Parrish, who we saw at the rear end of the field in that 20 car. There he is. He's got around Dylan Matthews, who's just trying to look for this first opening pit stop and to put some more adjustments into that UPS Mustang Cobra. Riley Sampson is the leader, or rather in that 3rd spot. We're going to go on board with Riley Sampson. in this Orbit number 36 car. We'll take you for a lap around the Papyrus Motorsports Park, starting with this fearsome right-hander, 24 degrees. And Riley still on the inside lane. And the elevation changes here at Papyrus cannot be underestimated. A little bit of a lick into the outside wall, no harm, no foul through turns 5 and 6, which are banked at 27 degrees, a little bit more banked than the fearsome right-hander. And on to the fastest part of the track, the place between the exit of turn number 6, I should say, and turn number 1, turn 7. These guys are approaching speeds upwards of 210 miles an hour, especially with fantastic drafting runs like we're seeing on the back end of the 33. Wood in the outside wall a little bit, and here comes Mike Vincent Jr. for the race lead. Vincent Jr. looking for that race lead. It looks like he might get it here. Is he going to clear the 49? Wood's got a little bit of drafting help. It is a really good battle that we're able to watch here. We're seeing what Riley Sampson is seeing right now. Mike Vincent Jr. will end the 11-lap onslaught for Kyle Wood. And Mike Vincent Jr. back out to the race lead. And we saw all that out front with the 36 of Riley Sampson with pit stops just on the horizon here. Kyle Wood right behind Mike Vincent Jr. Oh, and are we going to get pit stops here right at lap 27? Looks like we are. Here we go. Pit cycle is opening up for GT Le Mans. Mike Vincent Jr., right as he took the race lead, will lead everybody down. And actually, this is not even everybody. GT Daytona already came down the pit lane. In fact, these guys are on the overcut. So it's feed-in time here on lap number 27. It's Mike Vincent Jr., three-time winner last season in that 78 car. Will lead everybody down. It is an absolute zoo on the pit lane currently. Let's see what he'll do. I imagine it's going to be 4 fresh BF Goodrich Mr. Feelgoods going around that car, filling that gas tank full of octane racing fuel. Got a 33 right out in front of him. A really good pit stop for Mike Vincent Jr. Not a great pit stop for Roberto Crown Jr. Same thing with Riley Sampson. Those two falling a little bit back. And Sarah Taylor, she actually stayed out. I think she's going to beat that 78 car off of the pit lane. The one lap we do when on board is the lap where everybody comes down the pit lane. We have no idea the strategies that everybody are on. But how about that for Sarah Taylor? Titan Nicholas is officially called it an afternoon. It was a clutch failure that sent that 41 into the garage area prematurely. Bradley Ream also staying out or coming down earlier on. James Lawson also on that same strategy as the other two, as he's fallen a little bit back of these drivers. But now, this completely changed the game as the GTLM leader no longer has the drafting help. And Bradley Ream getting a nice tail. Nice toe off the back end of Joseph Wood, who will go down an additional lap. And we'll go back to GT Daytona. Esteban Lasser. No surprise to see him as the race leader, but he came in and did not take any fuel on that pit stop. So right now, Will Parrish. No, Parrish just came in past Shakira Takashi where his pit stall was. Shakira Takashi is still going to be this race leader here. Actually, no, Samat Oskin is going to be the race leader, but again, Oskin, he is off cycle with everybody else, but is at least going to get a couple of laps led once Esteban Lasser comes down the pit lane, which honestly, I think it's going to be that 51 car that'll end up coming down the pit lane before the 66. So here we go. Battle for the race lead brewing. Here comes Logan Alexander to the inside. This will be for the race lead in GT Daytona once this all cycles around. And Takashi, trying to use that 51 car as a pick, but now Ozkin, I don't know if Ozkin knows what lane he wants to go in. He's blocking both sides. And the 51 car, a much older rubber. Takashi bombing to the inside, a little bit close for comfort there with Ozkin. She's able to maneuver around that 51 car. Logan Alexander not, as Reggie Fogelman impatiently trying to get around that 71 machine. He's not quite able to do it, and now Matt Ozkin will drop all the way back, and I believe he might be coming back down the pit lane here in the 51 again. He was very off cycle with everybody else. And by the looks of it, he will indeed be coming back down the pit lane to make his second pit stop of the day for that Cobra. As is Esteban Lasser, so Chikira Takashi back out of the race lead in GTD. Meanwhile, in GT Le Mans, Bradley Ream, Sarah Taylor, both came down on lap number 26. And they're both running 1-2. 2.4 second, 2.35 seconds in front of Mike Vincent Jr., who's got a rear view mirror full of that PLP Coyote 49 of Kyle Wood. Owen Miles has also brought his way into the fray, and again, just not a great pit stop for both Riley Sampson and Roberto Crown Jr. Those both falling way out of contention for the moment, but we still got one more pit stop to undergo. And we said in the pre-race that pit strategy, along with track position and drafting help, were going to be the three most important components of getting this race win. And, well, looks like the 45 and the 40 have got a pretty good pit strategy, but Kyle Wood, as well as Mike Vincent Jr., he had an absolute moment in the 78. He lost a lot of time to that 49. But those two are within 2 seconds of the GTLM leaders. So you'll see coming around this time by, there is the gap between the 40 and the 49. And it might increase here a little bit with whatever happened with the Vincent Jr. and Kyle Wood. Way hard on the outside wall was Sarah Taylor. And that gap did increase back to 2 seconds. Here's Bradley Ream down on the low side of that A&W 45. Ream, in his third season in the FMGTC, has failed to win a race just yet. That Boston Red Sox number 40 car trying to put that Corvette in a Gatorade victory lane for the first time in his FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship career. And we go back to where Kyler Anderson is. And he fell back. He fell back a lot in that 42 off of the pit cycle. Back to 9th. The outside pole sitter. So still a lot of time to go in this race, but we're reaching that halfway mark, 10 laps away from the midway point through this race. Only one car out. That was Titan Nicholas with an engine failure. 3 cars are off the lead lap, and nobody in GTLM has had any issues just yet, although Nathan Stapleton, actually the big Staple right now, he's in 11th, so he didn't have any sort of issues. As it's back underneath 2 seconds between the two leaders, as Sarah Taylor continues to try to find another way around that 40 car, as Ream leading his second lap of the afternoon. But Owen Miles, again, both Owen Miles and Bradley Ream, they were just right on the outskirts of this 5-car battle for the race lead. And again, one of them choosing one strategy, the other one choosing the other, and both of them able to have solid pit stops. Bradley Ream right now on the higher end of that spectrum. And not too far behind is James Lawson. In fact, James Lawson well within reach of the 36 and the 33, so that's actually more of a detriment to showing how far back Riley Sampson and Roberto Crown Jr. have fallen off a little bit. Taylor has got to run back down to the inside. A little bit of sparks there for the 40, and here comes that A&W Jag. Back down low as they've caught up to lap traffic. One, Carlos Espinoza in the way of the GTLM leaders, and Bradley Ream is just going to drag the brake a little bit. Not enough to break his momentum, but just allow that 45 car to get past, because, again, the last thing you want to do, especially when both of you guys are on that same older tire strategy, is go side by side, and it acts like just a basic parachute. We got one car around. It's Taylor Lay. We had another car that also was going around as Lay. Heavy damage in that 07. And our first GTLM casualty of the afternoon has been claimed in that virtual racing world Jaguar. Up in a plume of smoke. And it's our first incident in the fearsome right-hander as well, and it involved Alexander Rowe too. So the points leader in GT Daytona going to be knocked out of the race. An issue between one of the faster GT Daytona cars, as Rowe, who was battling for the 8th spot at the time, going to get into it with Taylor Lay, and that is such a heartbreaker for Alexander Rowe, and both points leaders this weekend having issues. That's likely going to take Alexander Rowe out of the race too. We got a lot of lap traffic coming up here for the GTLM leaders. You got Joseph Wood, but you got Harrison Fox, who's filtered his way all the way to the back as well, and pretty much the entire GT Daytona grid. As there is Luna Taylor going to the garage area. And that happened right in front of the GTLM leaders. You'll see what will happen. It was a piston failure ultimately that took Lay out of the race. And for Alexander Rowe, it'll likely be an accident, will be the official stature for him. So we have our first DNF of the afternoon for GT Le Mans. Taylor Lay has gone to the garage area at Bradley Ream. Back down to the low side. Here comes 45 of Taylor, looking for a little bit of a crossover for this race lead in GTLM, and they've caught up to lap traffic. Where does Joseph Wood go? And how long until they catch up to the rear end of the field in GT Daytona, as very slow through the corner that time was Dylan Matthews. Wood into the outside wall. That's going to create an avenue for Ream to try to find a way around. And he will do so by the looks of it. Same thing with Sarah Taylor. These two losing a little bit of time to Kyle Wood, with his brother Joseph right out in front of him. I believe Joseph will just lay on back and let the 49 car, his brother and company, just scoot on by. This time by, or rather next time by, will be the halfway point. Taylor back out to the race lead as she and Bradley Ream continue to swap spots. And this is the middle lap of the race here, lap 37. 37 down, 37 to go. As the Wood brothers will let each other pass. No, not the Wood brothers you're thinking of. And now this is where the chess match will ultimately begin. Right at the halfway point through the race. We've got 37 to go, and these guys came down on lap number 26. So expect these guys to make their final pit stop at around lap 52. And they can mathematically make it to the end after going 52 laps, so this should be good. Time will only tell. But again, you've got this whole big logjam of GT Daytona lap traffic in front of these race leaders. As again, they've got about 1.3 seconds. They've got 1.5 seconds between the 45 and the 27 that last time by. And these guys right now, Kyle Wood, as I thought I saw some more smoke for a brief moment. But Kyle Wood right now with the fastest lap in the race with a 1:11.161 as the fastest lap in GT Daytona, actually being held by Will Parrish, funnily enough, with a 1:12.145. So these guys are about 6 seconds off of the rear end of this GT Daytona grid. And they're still catching up by maybe a second a lap, maybe 3/4 of a second a lap. What's definitely helping these GT Daytona drivers from pulling away a little bit, smidge by smidge, are that they're a little bit more in line with one another. But then again, you got Pedro Sabato, and Sabato absolutely falling off in the 64. And he and Luna Farmer have just not had any sort of setup help. And they are all the way in the back. I don't think I have seen that 64 car that slow. So not a great afternoon for Pedro Sabato. Same thing with Esteban Lasser. Lasser being the mentor of Sabato, and Sabato being the protege, the development driver. We are officially halfway home through the Dunkin New England Grand Prix. We got a little bit of time before we get things back going here. So what do you say we go downstairs, and for the only time today, get yourselves a snap-on race break. Let's go through the field. Presented by Fram. Bradley Ream has got the race lead in car number 40. Sarah Taylor hot on his heels, and it's once again turned into a 6-car battle for the race lead. Kyle Wood is in third. Owen Miles populates fourth. Mike Vincent Jr. rounds out the top 5. John Andrews is going to come up to 6th, while Riley Sampson is 7th. Roberto Crown Jr. is 8th. James Lawson is 9th. And Chris Harvey, winner at Willow Springs 1 month ago, will round out the top 10. The Big Staple, Nathan Stapleton, is 11th. Michael Lewis runs in 36th. He is still 1 lap down. All the way back in 12th is actually going to be Chikura Takashi. But 12th in GTLM is Reggie Fogelman. 13th is Emma York Watson. 14th is Philip Torres. 15th will be Bryce Egan. 16th is going to be Luna Farmer. 17th is Kasumi Takashi. 18th, Anthony Joseph. 19th will be Pedro Sabato. 20th will be Michael Lewis. And 21st is going to be that 07 of Taylor Lay, who is out in the garage area. As here we go, race lead brewing up. We'll get to the GT Daytona grid here quickly, starting with Chikura Takashi, who is in that first spot. Second is Logan Alexander. Third is Dylan Abrahamian. Fourth, Lauren Martinez. Fifth is Carson Miller. Sixth, Will Parrish. Seventh is going to be Damian Karanko. Eighth, Kyler Anderson. Ninth, Eric Blaze in the 9 car. And rounding out the top 10, Marcus Glitch. 11th, Robo Dorn. 12th, Dylan Matthews. 13th, Harrison Fox. 14th is Landon Walker. And 15th is, I believe, going to be Juan Carlos Espinoza. 16th is Joseph Wood, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, 16th is going to be Esteban Lasser. Alexander Rowe currently runs in 20th. St. Nicholas is 21st. So it's actually Nicholas is going to be 21st. Rowe is going to be 20th. Joseph Wood in 19th. Robert Mikhailovich is going to be in 18th. And Cement Oskin will be in 17th. With Esteban Lasser in 16th. Juan Carlos Espinoza in 15th. And Landon Walker will be 14th. So that is your Fram through the field, part of our snap-on race break. 33 laps to go here at the Papyrus Motorsports Park. In race number 3 of the 2026 season of the NR2003 FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship here on the North American Sim Racing Network. Trey Wright on the call. 32 laps to go. Still one more pit stop on the horizon for these drivers, as Owen Miles First car on 4 tires, rather a first car on that lap 27 strategy. It's going to move up to third, getting around both the 49 and the 78 of Wood and Vincent Jr. Tell you what, I think Mike Vincent Jr. might be a little sick of seeing that 49 car around him again. The championship battle between him and Aguirre Sato last season going down to the final race, but it was essentially all for nothing as Aguirre Sato, not having a great qualifying effort at Riverside. And Riverside is going to be one of the 4 races we have got this year, which there will be an additional race to get in other than the initial qualifying session. Of course, one of those was Daytona, and the other 2 are going to be Watkins Glen and Clawhammer. But here we go. Sarah Taylor has caught up to the back end of the GT Daytona grid, and Landon Walker does not want to go a lap down. But it's pretty much inevitable at this point. And Owen Miles up to second, right as Sarah Taylor trying to slice and dice her way through the GTLM, the back end of the GT Daytona grid. Got tripped up because Pedro Sabato is a GT Le Mans driver. Currently just very, very, very deep. The last GTLM car on the lead lap. And that'll change right here and right now. Owen Miles quickly following with that 45, going through the right-hander. Way up the racetrack he goes, but he's going to utilize that run through turn 4. Get around that 64. And this is just going to be nothing short of absolute chaos here up until these guys come down the pit lane in the next 10 laps. 3 wide. Here comes Kyle Wood. Not quite able to get there. Off the wall nearly was Sabato. And how about that? Kyle Wood going up through the middle. Meanwhile, 3 wide as Harrison Fox and Anthony Joseph will also go a lap down. Joseph also not having a great race as well in that 22 machine. Sarah Taylor just continuing to pick off these drivers one at a time. But remember, her and the 40 of Ream both have to come back down the pit lane. They remain on that strategy. They have to make a pit stop 1 lap earlier than these other drivers. It has certainly helped out in their favor a lot, but with this lap down traffic and the dirty air that they're running in right now, who knows how much that is going to affect their strategies. But Owen Miles, he's got the inside lane. He's right behind Kasumi Takashi. Oh, utilizing that 7 car as a pick was Taylor, and now she's got a little bit of breathing room for the time being. Owen Miles trying to go the long way around that 7 car. Hits the outside wall a little bit, and a big check up there for the 7. Nearly got ran over by Harrison Fox. That's going to give a little bit of breathing room to that 40 car as here comes Bradley Ream all the way down darn near the apron. Not able to get a ledge around that 27 car, and now a lot of lap down traffic separating the top 2 in GT Le Mans from the other drivers. Kyle Wood has been able to get around the 7 and the 27. Ream ducking underneath that HKS number 27 car too. First time we're seeing Harrison Fox all season long being put a lap down. Kyle Wood, a man on a mission, and he has caught all the way up to Owen Miles. He's gotten around Dylan Matthews, not able to get around Rogel Dorn just yet as Sarah Taylor. Absolutely impressive what she's been able to do right now. Don't think she's going to get around Marcus Glitch this time. She's going to have a ledge. She'll get around Glitch. But now, where does Luna Farmer go? Farmer immediately putting that car to the outside lane. And what Sarah Taylor has done so far, navigating around these lap down cars, has been nothing short of incredible. Owen Miles on the outside of Rogel Dorn. Here comes Kyle Wood. Wood ducking down the low side. Miles will not give up. He's to the inside of the 32. Oh, and here we go on lap number 45. We've got cars coming back down the pit lane. Sarah Taylor down into the pit area. Same thing with Roberto Crown Jr. I do not know about this strategy because, again, we're right at 29 laps to go, 28 to go at the line. That is right at the numbers for a lot of these drivers. That is a very bold strategy, and that's going to throw the entire race for the lead out in the window like a fart in the wind. Oh, Kyle Wood, he thought about going through wide through the right-hander. I don't know if I would endorse that personally as Bradley Ream trying to find a way around that 49 as Owen Miles back to the race lead. And again, this is just an absolutely off-the-wall strategy. But no, it looks like everybody's going to be going on this strategy here. The 45 is out ahead of the 33. Reggie Fogelman back down the pit lane. Emily York-Watson is going to stay out. Carson Miller, Dylan, and Bohemian. And a lot of other drivers also coming down the pit lane. And Owen Miles will say, you know what? One strategy following the 45 already worked once. Can it work again? Ooh, some contact. Harrison Fox and John Andrews getting into one another. They were able to keep it straight and off of the attenuator. But this is the money stop. 27 laps to go at Papyrus. Owen Miles will be the race leader coming down into the pit area. You need a flawless stop. 4 tires going all the way around that 59 car. We'll see as some rear end damage there for the 3 from the 27. And where is the 45? There is Sarah Taylor just now coming out of turn number 7. And Owen Miles just coming out of the pit lane. He's got Bryce Egan right in front of him. And Egan off the lead lap, right on the tail end of the lead lap. There is Karanko. And Sarah Taylor, here she comes, blitzing all the way on by. She'll get around Kyle Wood. Owen Miles still getting up to speed, but he's got some help from behind from the 42. Here comes the 45. And Owen Miles out front. He's still warming up those tires. Here's Taylor down through the inside. She's going to split the gap between some G2 Daytona drivers. Wasn't quite 3 wide entering through the corner as quickly ducking out of the way was Kyler Anderson. Taylor, man, rather woman on a mission. Owen Miles still warming up those tires and absolutely blitzing her way around some more lap down cars was that 45. And here she comes down to the inside. She's still got the momentum. Owen Miles has got a little bit of drafting help. Got some help from behind from the 9. Here comes the 45. Those two door to door, wheel to wheel through turn number 7. This is the battle for the GTLM race lead. And still, Kyle Wood and Roberto Crown Jr. are going to be in this battle once they get around the lead lap, the other lap down cars. What a battle this has been in GT Le Mans all day long. And in GT Daytona, a lot of rear-end damage for Reggie Fogelman. He got rear-ended by somebody coming off of the pit lane. Meanwhile, it's Logan Alexander as a little bit of damage on that Bud Light 46 of Shakira Takashi. I think she backed into somebody, or she rear-ended somebody in that 46 as she is falling a little bit off as the battle has seriously tapered off in GT Daytona as Riley Sampson. I think we know who ran in the back of Reggie Fogelman. The pole sitter was having such a great day. And he is going to be back in 11th right now. A tough break for Sampson, but back to the race lead in GT Le Mans. Again, Owen Miles has 1 lap fresher tires than Sarah Taylor, and Taylor has gotten around a lot of lap traffic. But there's still plenty of lap traffic that is going to be going around for these drivers. Again, Reggie Fogelman, he's going to be a moving chicane probably only once with 25 to go. You got a lot of Daytona cars. You got a lot of slower Le Mans cars. And you got Owen Miles still hungry to go back-to-back here in the 59. He's down to the inside. Just going to remain in that 45 car's tire tracks. Taylor's just got to play defense. but on 1 lap older tires. And again, that means a lot. Kyle Wood still with the fastest lap in the race, as he and Roberto Crown Jr. have tapered off a little bit. They're currently a 2.5 back. If Taylor and Miles run into pretty heavy lap traffic, but again, they've shown time and time again that they have been able to seriously overcome some of this lap traffic. Again, Sarah Taylor, she's been like a 1,000-degree knife cutting her way through lap traffic. I think she's got a pretty good chance of getting through this race here. But again, 23 laps to go. 24 to go, I should say. This race still far from over, but now it's just become a dogfight between the 45 and the 59. And meanwhile, again, Logan Alexander just trying to run away with this one in that 71. Very, very out front. As Robert Mikhailovich, I believe, he had a little bit more than mechanical failure. He was involved in a crash. I'm very disappointed. We haven't seen a crash live. We've seen a couple of close calls and chances, but I think of maybe 3 or 4 crashes we have had so far today, we have not caught any of them on live. It's Reggie Fogelman. Again, that absolutely horrendous rear end damage on that 11 car. It's acting like a gigantic parachute right now. And he is only 1.8 seconds away from these guys. You know, 1 minute and 8 seconds in front, so not a whole lot of room, especially with these guys running 111s. The lap traffic is going to be the deciding factor. It always is. Miles still right on the back end of this 45. I think he's just biding his time, looking to save up a little bit of his rubber when these guys come up through. And once we get in the lower end of this run, and again, you know, Sarah Taylor, she came down right at the very opening of the pit cycle. You know, these guys can do max 29 laps. There's 29 to go, 28 to go essentially, so giving yourself a little bit of a lap there with Sarah Taylor, but that was very, very much earlier than we expected any of these guys to come down. We expected them to come down this time around. But you know what, everybody, I don't know. You know, it's weird strategies like that that have made or broke some races, and still in the middle of heavy lap traffic. Now Reggie Fogelman, he is going to push the 45 to the outside. Here comes Owen Miles threading the needle. Still going to have that stricken 11 car to the outside. Taylor trying to use it as a little bit of a pick. Both drivers behind some stricken cars. One of them a Daytona, one of them with a lot of damage. And Reggie Fogelman holding up Sarah Taylor. Owen Miles, defending winner of this race, back out to the race lead, coming around to 21 to go from Papyrus. It has been a great race so far. And how long until the 49, the 33, and the 40 can catch back up to make this a 5-horse race for the race win? And can Owen Miles navigate around lap traffic like we saw with that 45? He'll go to the inside of Parrish. Same thing with Sarah Taylor. Look at Taylor. She's got a fantastic run. And here she is right on the back end of the 59 once again. Not quite able to find a way around. This is just shaping up to be a great, great, great battle for this race win in the late stages of this race. Miles on the inside, Taylor on the outside. Taylor dropping back down low, getting around Emily York-Watson, who's hard into the outside wall. Those two nails, nose to nose, nose to tail, still on top of one another. Here comes the 45, not quite able to get a ledge. Here she comes, down to the inside. Side by side for the race lead, and here comes Kyle Wood, looking his way back into this battle for GTLM. Sarah Taylor back out front. Now what can Owen Miles do to try to catch back up? You got that 88 car still in front of these guys. Same thing with Shakira Takashi. In fact, Takashi has dropped back significantly as Carson Miller, our Daytona 2.4 winner, up to second in GT Daytona. But again, this was an absolute slugfest last year between John Andrews and Owen Miles. Andrews back in 10th, way out of the way of these guys. Kyle Wood is going to make this a 3-horse race. It's going to be a 5-horse race if Crown Jr. and the 40 can get back up here as well. My only question is, where is Mike Vincent Jr.? He is all the way back to where Reggie Fogelman is. Vincent Jr. did not have a good pit stop right now, back in 6th. And he is going to miss out on the chance to make this a 6-pack race for the win in GT Daytona, GT Le Mans. 19 laps to go. Still anything can happen in this race, as now Dylan Ebrahimian underneath the 72 of Carson Miller. Remember, Ebrahimian will essentially take the points lead after Aaron Abel failed to qualify for this race. Connor Monaco. Actually, who's in the points lead for GT Daytona? Alexander Rowe. Alexander Rowe is in the points lead for GT Daytona. He has obviously had his issues. He is currently 4 laps down. You know, Carson Miller and Dylan Ebrahimian, they're only separated by 65 points. So Ebrahimian is likely going to be this points leader, shaken out going into the race in 2 weeks. But now we got some fast GT Daytona cars, and again, what a tough break for Shakira Takashi. Was running so well, up to 14th at one point on track. You know what, Logan Alexander, he's in 12th. So that's pretty impressive for him as a GT Daytona car, but we saw on speed, Shakira Takashi was running up in 14th at one point. And right now, she's still got a little bit fair amount of speed, but I don't think she's got race-winning speed. And especially with Logan Alexander still out front of all these drivers, and Robert Mikhailovich, he's going to be put a lap down too. Filtering back through the field. And now, playing the waiting game a little bit. Taylor caught behind the 46 a little bit, and here comes Miles. Gonna have a little bit of a run underneath the 45. It's all going to depend on where Carson Miller goes. Miles in the 59. Taylor in the 45. Taylor's going to get a little bit of a run off the outside lane, but she's probably going to overcook it, hit the wall a little bit here. Able to keep it off for the time being, and now we got 2 lanes both clogged up. And that's going to bring Kyle Wood to make this a menage a trois, 3-way battle for the race lead in GTLM. And this race is still very far from over in GT Le Mans. And who knows, if something happens with the 71, it might be far from over in GT Daytona too. Miles all the way to the outside. Sarah Taylor trying to hold off a hard-charging Kyle Wood. His second ever FMGTC race here on the NASRN. And he is well on his way to contending for this race win. And do not count out Roberto Crown Jr. or Bradley Ream. Had a little bit more trouble trying to find their way around lap-down cars, but they're still very well in the thick of this. Again, this is going to be a 5-way battle for this win in GT Le Mans. Here comes Kyle Wood underneath of Sarah Taylor. This is for second in GTLM. Now it's the two class leaders will be the next cars that will be put a lap down. Actually, Robert Mikhailovich is going to be the next car that will be put a lap down by Owen Miles. And Taylor still underneath the 49. They're wheel to wheel through turn number 1. Roberto Crown Jr. will get around the 72 of Carson Miller. He'll officially make it a 4-horse race for the race lead. Still a little bit marred by lap traffic is Bradley Ream. And you go back to the 78 of Mike Vincent Jr., who's right now 4 seconds off of the race lead. He might be out and down for the count. What a story this would be. Owen Miles going back to back. We're trying to figure out exactly if it was Owen Miles or Riley Sampson that flipped 2 years ago in this very race. I believe it was Riley Sampson. It could be Owen Miles. It could absolutely be one of the two. It was, in fact, Riley Sampson, who, like we said, has a very tumultuous history at this track. 15 to go at the line. And the top 4 in GT Le Mans are all on top of one another, but I'm really liking where Owen Miles is sitting right now in that 59 car. You know, he's got 1 lap fresher tires than Sarah Taylor and Roberto Crown Jr. does. He's got 1 more lap of fuel, which we have seen here in the past. You know, this race, you know, go back to the Mission Barbecue Cup Series. This race has always come down to fuel mileage. And, well, this race could come down to fuel mileage here for Sarah Taylor and Roberto Crown Jr. Kyle Wood is able to get around this 45 car, and I really think this is going to be a great battle between this 59 and 49. And again, it's pretty much all over but the crying in GT Daytona as long as Logan Alexander just holds on for the next 15 laps. He's going to be put a lap down, so that's going to play directly into his favor as GT Daytona is only going to be doing 72 laps. You know, again, you go back to here. Highest running driver behind that 71 is the 72 of Carson Miller, and he is all the way back in here. Everybody in GT Le Mans has gotten around him to put him a lap down. Yeah, this is just going to be a really good battle for second if it holds for GT Daytona between Miller and Ibrahimia. But if something happens this 71, well, all bets are off. That's going to be a dogfight right to the end, but it's absolutely a 5-way fight as all of the drivers in GT Le Mans in line with one another, spanning from the 59 of Owen Miles all the way back to the 40 of Bradley Ream, who is within a second of the 59. 5 cars, 13 to go at the stripe, 1 race winner in this class. And Owen Miles, the Pied Piper, will lead his 10th lap of the day this next time by, and the 2 class leaders nose to tail. Ducking down low is the 59. Ducking down the lane lower is the 49. We could see 3 wide for the race lead all the way through the corner. Here comes Kyle Wood. Reggie Fogelman off of the pit lane. And Kyle Wood has taken the race lead away from Owen Miles. Now Sarah Taylor moves underneath the 59. Bradley Ream continue to have his struggles getting around lap traffic, and that may be the end of him if he's not able to catch back up. Owen Miles now falling back in the 59 as Kyle Wood, who's on that same strategy as Miles. He'll go to the point. Next car in line to be put a lap down, the 7 of Joseph Wood. And I think that'll be it, lap down cars-wise. Wood now with the advantage. Well, very big checkup there for Logan Alexander. That was right in front of Bradley Ream, who has fallen off a little bit. And is that 71 car? Ooh, he might be coming down the pit lane. We are going to have cars coming down the pit lane. Sarah Taylor, the leader. Coming down the pit lane, same thing with the 71. They could not, in fact, make it to the end, and the race leader for GT Daytona down the pit lane, drama here at the Papyrus Motorsports Park. We said that this was going to come down to fuel strategy, but with 12 laps to go, I don't know. I think they did the math on that 45 car. You know, we got a lot of cars coming down the pit lane. I guess really Sarah Taylor and her crew have really been the Pied Piper of the pit strategy. Whatever they do, everybody is just going to copy-paste it. And oh my lord, are we going to see drivers coming back down the pit lane here? You know, Mike Vincent Jr., I think he's coming down. Carson Miller also might be coming down. Are we going to see the race leaders in GT Le Mans come down once again? Yes, they are. Here we go, 11 laps to go at the stripe. It is officially the money stop. And is Sarah Taylor going to have any help from behind as these drivers back down the pit lane for the third and final time? You know, I think they all know that this is going to be a dogfight to the end, and they don't want to be on the opposite end of the spectrum fighting with that 45 car, who's obviously going to have faster and fresher tires. Does anybody take 2 tires? No, everybody's going to take 4. They want to be fully loaded for bear for any sort of combat that they need to get under. Kyle Wood out and away, nearly got run over by Bryce Egan. Another very slow stop for the 33. Same thing with the 78. Same song, second verse. Where does Sarah Taylor come out with all these drivers? There she is right now in turn number 1 along with the 71. It's Logan Alexander. Alexander's likely going to blitz past the competition. But Kyle Wood already in his own zip code right now. A fantastic pit stop there by that 49 car. That 49 team out and away with the fastest pit stop of the afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. And Sarah Taylor, she's got to make quick work. These drivers right now on their outlap. Roberto Crown Jr. trying to get up to speed. Here she comes, ducking back down to the inside. Crown Jr. still trying to get his tires heated up. Ooh, this could be a very close battle. Again, everybody is good to go to the end fuel-wise. Some other stragglers coming back down the pit lane to make their final pit stops. Marcus Glitch was the leader for a brief moment in GT Daytona. I believe that has cycled back around to the 71. Because again, Ibrahimian, who's gotten around Carson Miller, those two third and second, I believe. And yeah, Logan Alexander back out to the race lead. So following that 45 car strategy work to a T. But can the own strategy for Sarah Taylor come out and work with? She has been on that undercut all day long. It worked absolute droves on the first set of pit stops. But coming around the 9 laps to go, is that going to be the same case? Robert Mikhailovich back down the pit lane. He has got a fuel leak in that 56 car. So a tough day, getting worse. He's already 6 laps down. He'll fall down an additional lap. It will be under 10 laps to go for Kyle Wood. Owen Miles and Sarah Taylor. Right now, the top 3. We'll see what the podium is, where the gap is, and it's down to 1.5 seconds. Taylor is absolutely gaining on Owen Miles. I think that 45 crew, they put a ton of tape on that front grille. She is absolutely flogging it around the Papyrus Motorsports Park. There is the gap between the top 4. Oh, Mike Vincent Jr. with an aggressive move on the outside. Bradley Ream, who did not have a good pit stop whatsoever. Going to be marred fighting for that final spot inside the top 5, and he might lose it to Mike Vincent Jr., who's just looking for a good run after missing the race 1 month ago at Willow Springs. I can tell all these guys wanted the name, or want this win. You all know the names. Kyle Wood, fresh face, second ever race here in the FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship. Has come in a little bit. He kind of was like, hey, that move in the roar before the 2.4 qualifier was a little bit Carson Hocevar-esque, but he's calmed down a lot. Finished 12th last week in his first ever race. In a great spot, but it's now 0.6 of a second in front of Owen Miles. And again, everything Owen Miles has been through in that 59 car, still he's on a 125 race winless streak. He'll strap back into an MVCS car tomorrow along with 19 others. He's looking to bring a little bit of hardware with him to go back-to-back at Papyrus down to Greenville, South Carolina. And Sarah Taylor, like we said, she has been the strategy queen all afternoon long. Can she bring this up into this battle? She is a second off of the 49. And these cars all going to be on top one another. Roberto Crown Jr., he's just been kind of riding the coattails of everybody today. But he has been on it like Bluebonnet. So a little far back. 7 to go at the stripe. So we adjust the audio a little bit on our end. I wish we had a little bit of something we could do on OBS with the NR audio to increase it without having to freeze the screen for a second. But driver not freezing right now was Owen Miles. He's going to go to the inside. Not able to quite get the edge on the 49. They both go up the racetrack. I know Owen, he absolutely wants this. Like we said, that winless drought in the Cup Series. His only win coming here at Papyrus in the FMGTC. He is absolutely looking to go back-to-back. And meanwhile, a 3-second lead for Logan Alexander over Dylan Ebrahimian. We'll go back to GT Daytona right here and right quick. And again, there is the gap between the 71 and the 25 with the Pipers running 1-2. That's the gap for GT Le Mans. Owen Miles right on the back end. Here he comes, blitzing his way down to the inside. 6 laps to go at Papyrus. These guys go side by side. That's going to draw in that A&W Jaguar. That 45 car so well, especially at a track like this where the amount of downforce that we've got. Wood might fall back to third. He's looking to slot back in front of that 45. He'll just get there in time, but Owen Miles back to the race lead. Again, he and the 49 both on the same strategy. And they do have one car, one lap down car that they're going to have to get out in front of. And I love races like this where the only chaos and the only drama is who is going to end up getting this race win. Another big run coming for Kyle Wood. Taylor falling back 0.3 of a second back that last time by. Here comes Wood going down on the inside, gunning that lower line. Again, there is Samat Oskin, the pole sitter from earlier on. He is just about maybe 1.5 seconds in front of these leaders. Wood back to the race lead. What can Owen Miles do about it as they come around? 5 laps to go. And there is Samat Oskin right in the gun sights of Kyle Wood. Oskin, who sat on the pole position for GT Daytona, right now could decide this win for GT Le Mans. Wood will likely be the first car to reach him, unless they go side by side, in which all bets are off. I don't know. They might be side by side or reaching him right at the start-finish line. Miles is going to get a really good slipstream up until that start-finish line. Really good run. Lamar Miles with a really good run. Not quite up to the rear bumper of the 49 just yet. Wood will get around this 51. 4 to go. Miles continuing to generate a huge draft right behind that 49 car, and Sarah Taylor, that might be it for her. She is caught behind the 51 of Samat Ozkin. Had to get out of the gas slightly, will be on the outside lane, and it might be just a match race for the win with 3.5 laps to go. There's nothing but clean racetrack and the occasional Michael Lewis out in front of these drivers. Riley Sampson way too out far in front to be any sort of moving chicane. We go back in here. Still, the air is clear for Logan Alexander. Got a couple of cars in between himself and that 72 car for the race lead in GT Le Mans, GT Daytona. 3 to go at the line. Miles continuing to build up that big run behind that 49. I think he is just content on staying tucked behind him until this next time by. That's where he's going to make his move. Or could he make his move now through turn number 2? He's right on the bumper of that 49. He just lost the handle of it. He got way too aerotight through 2. So all that momentum he was building out the wayside like a fart in the wind. And he's going to have to build that momentum all the way back around this time by. And that might be, I don't want to say that'll seal it for Kyle Wood again. There's still plenty of time to go in this race. 2.5 laps to go. And Sarah Taylor, she's not out of it just yet. She's 0.5 of a second right behind these top 2. Miles a little bit of a higher line that's going to give him some more momentum compared to the 49. And this is where you're going to have to start your run. You got to run a flawless lap here. That's all you need to do, run a flawless lap. Set yourself up for coming around to the white flag, but sticks are high in the air. 2 laps to go from Papyrus, and here goes Owen Miles. Wood will quickly shut the door on him. That was way too early for Miles. That might cost him again. Wood still with the advantage, 2 car lengths between the top 2 in GT Le Mans. This is all right in the windshield of Sarah Taylor. Nothing she can really do just yet, but they're not going to catch up to Michael Lewis. They're not going to catch up to Reggie Fogelman or Riley Sampson. This is just going to be an unadulterated battle between a couple of Chevrolet Corvettes, and throw a little bit of chaos in there with the Jaguar. Alexander still now only a second out in front of Dylan Abrahamian. As those two are catching up, we might have 2 really good battles here for the race wins. But meanwhile, back at the front for GT Le Mans. White flag in the air one more time around the Papyrus Motorsports Park. Here comes Owen Miles. He's got the run this time around. He's to the inside of Kyle Wood. Miles draws out front. Gonna get the ledge. Here's Sarah Taylor trying to get down to the inside. Taylor is going to get the gap on the 49, and Kyle Wood, nothing he could do to defend a magnificent run out of Owen Miles. Meanwhile, back in here with GT Daytona, still a sizable gap between the 71 and the 25. Through the right-hander for the final time today, Wood battling with Sarah Taylor. That might be it for Owen Miles. Those two still side by side. Michael Lewis still out in front of all these drivers, and Kyle Wood is going to be thinking about why. We knew that Owen Miles was going to run a fantastic lap. He had to run the perfect lap to get the perfect run. Coming to the white flag, he ducks to the inside. He makes the pass through turn number 1. And 6 corners later, not able to catch back up in time is going to be Kyle Wood off of turn number 7. Call it back-to-back for the Rochester, New York native. Owen Miles wins for GT Le Mans. Once again, that Papyrus. And back for GT Daytona. Oh, nose to tail. Here we go. They're going to be side by side right at the stripe. Logan Alexander by a car length just edges out Dylan Ebrahimian for the GT Daytona win. Wow. Oh, my Lord. Give Ebrahimian one more lap, and he would have made that pass for the race win. Couldn't have been more. 5/100ths of a second, 6/100ths of a second between Logan Alexander and Dylan Ebrahimian. I don't know what was going on with that 71 car. He was falling off like a rock. Wow. Well, you want to talk about instant classics, ladies and gentlemen? I think we had 2 instant classic finishes here. It's Owen Miles with a last lap pass beats out Kyle Wood by 0.4 of a second. And by 0.06 of a second, Logan Alexander got that win over Dylan Ebrahimian. My, oh my. It doesn't get any better than that. Papyrus is all about speed, and it certainly showed it there as we take a look at the official standings. Owen Miles going back to Gatorade Victory Lane here at the Papyrus Motorsports Park. Kyle Wood in his second ever start. Oh, so close. But only 0.4 of a second off, and he led the most laps today, 27 for the rookie. Sarah Taylor rounds out your podium for GT Le Mans. Bradley Raymond, Mike Vincent Jr., your top 5 as Roberto Crown Jr. fell down to 6th. And Logan Alexander, it doesn't show it on here, but on the GNL website, 6/100ths of a second between Logan Alexander and Dylan Ebrahimian. And again, we talked about it for Logan Alexander, how with those guys being a lap down, they were going to run one less lap. And if this race went 73 for GT Daytona, Dylan Ebrahimian wins that by no contest. As Logan Alexander, Dylan Ebrahimian, and Carson Miller, your podium for GT Daytona. Had a lot of cars off of the lead lap based on pit strategy, but only 2 cars failed to finish the race. Technically 3 with Robert Mikhailovich being 17 laps down and still in the pit area right at the end. Taylor Lay, Titan Nicholas, the only 2 cars out of the race, both of them with mechanical issues. We had a couple of incidences, but nothing too much aside from Lay to really knock anybody out of the race entirely. But we talked about it all throughout that final couple of laps. Owen Miles, all you needed was the draft. We knew that the draft was going to mean everything, and he just got the slipstream of his life, of the race. Right behind that 49, made that move, and we thought he had made the move way too early. Turns out he didn't. And, of course, Dylan Ebrahimian stick taps for him for making that a fantastic race right at the end there. But that's going to do it here from the Papyrus Motorsports Park. Congratulations once again to Owen Miles and Logan Alexander for winning the Dunkin New England Grand Prix. Both those drivers will strap back into stock cars tomorrow afternoon, as tomorrow 20 of these drivers are back in the saddle for a single-day South Carolina showdown. Coverage from the Greenville-Spartanburg Speedway for the Slap On Location 500 airs at 11 a.m. for qualifying, and then 3 hours later, the 50-lap feature event for the Slap On Location 500 at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the NESRN. Next time we'll see the FMGTC will be in just only 2 weeks, up in the Badger State, our earliest ever race at the Old Spice High Endurance Raceway. Coverage for the Old Spice Easter Grand Prix from the Old Spice Raceway airs at Saturday, April 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern, one day before Easter Sunday, right here on the NASRN. Of course, we got Fuel Grand National Competition, and I believe we should be into Sportsman as well the next couple of weeks at this point on the online side of things on Wednesday and Friday nights, but certainly very, very, very busy here on the NASRN, as we always are. But thank you once again for tuning into today's coverage of the FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship. Here are your point standings after Race 3 of the 2026 FMGTC season. And from Waltham, Massachusetts, on behalf of the entire North American Sim Racing Network, my name is Trey Wright. Have a great evening, folks. We'll see you tomorrow for NBCS coverage at 2 p.m.